Welcome to Echevarria Travel, where we deliver all destinations from pole to pole. Whether it's tickets to a local event, a group bus trip, air travel for families, or cruises, we are here to lighten the load and take the stress out of planning your trip. We offer excellent travel packages for everyone, and we specialize in providing travel assistance to the special needs and disabilities community. Echevarria Travel provides education and information on traveling with medical conditions and accessibility options in airports, on cruises, and in foreign countries. Before you give up on taking that dream trip because you have special needs that seem to make it too difficult, please contact us for a consultation first. Echevarria Travel's award-winning founder, Cheryl Echevarria, loves to travel and has personally overcome the challenges of traveling with blindness and special medical needs. Call us today at 631-456-5394 for a free consultation about your trip and explore the world with Echevarria Travel.
Recording and bringing myself up here. There we go. Hi, everybody. It's Cheryl Echevarria, and today is Talk Travel with Cheryl for Friday. Remember, every Friday I come to you recorded show, either with a travel partner or a business networking partner that I work with. Remember, nowadays we have all online businesses and stuff and social media, and it's not like back in the day with Sesame Street, who are the people in your neighborhood. I like bringing people in my neighborhood on Talk Travel with Cheryl. The people that I bring on that are not in the travel business or business owners that can help you with almost everything out there that you need, whether it's your health and wellness, great shirts. I wear polo shirts from Embroidery Plus out there, and I'm going to get Wanda on the show with us as well to talk about her products. But today we're talking health and wellness with AJ Gantt, and she is with Shaklee products. So AJ, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me. I'm excited.
Yay! So excited to have you. Well, what I always ask everybody is to give me a little bio, or give our listeners a little bio about yourself, how long you've been doing Shaklee and all that. And so give whatever information you like to give about yourself and the business.
Okay. So professionally, I've been in the health and wellness arena since 2007. Unprofessionally, I grew up being an athlete, so health and wellness has always been really important to me, and my main sports were gymnastics and wrestling. So I had to be very cautious of the food I was eating, along with having some sensitivities and allergies, so knowing what's good for my body and what's not. So that's where I started with the journey, and here I am. It feels like a million years later, but I don't know, like 20 years later.
Yeah, awesome. It also says on your Facebook page, I noticed you're also a background in massage therapy as well.
Yes, so that's kind of how I transitioned. I started doing rehab massage therapy. So that was for auto accidents, workers' comp, and that kind of thing. And then I would notice my patients would plateau. So then I started researching a little bit more on nutrition and how I can help them with their nutrition. And so we would have those conversations of why they plateaued, and if it was surrounding food and nutrition, then I could help them do that. So that's how I transitioned from the rehab side of health and wellness into the nutrition side.
And why Shaklee products when there's so many other products out there? Why did you go with Shaklee versus?
We're the best.
I mean, I know people are heard of Herbalife and Shaklee and other products out there, but Young Living. So why Shaklee? Why should people?
So with my pre-med and sports med background, the available research and true blind studied tests that were done to show the quality of the products was a big deal to me. I wanted to see real science behind it, not just marketing science. And I wanted to make sure that I was choosing a company that's had longevity. They've been around since 1956. So it's really fun. People who are a little closer to my age are like, oh, I've never even heard of that company. And people who are closer to my mom's age are like, oh, I used to sell that back in the day. I didn't know they were still around. So having the longevity and the science and then a really good compensation plan as well is what attracted me to Shaklee.
So, as you know, this is basically a travel talk show, and I brought you on here because you do a lot of recommendations, especially with this epidemic going on. I'd like, to give us some advice and updates of what we should be doing and planning for travel during this COVID and trying to stay healthy in general while this is going on. Maybe you can give us some advice and recommend some products, and we'll go from there.
Sure, perfect. All right, so there are 3 things that I never travel without. One is our Nutrifuron. It's an immunity booster product. This one we take in what we call therapeutic doses, but you don't have to. If we know we're going to be on a long flight, then we'll take a little bit more than the recommended. But if you take it daily, it stays in the immune system and it helps just protect you and boost you up all the time. This one here is our vitamin C. It's equivalent to 16 oranges plus a handful of other things in it. I never go anywhere without this either. My daughter to this day still thinks this is actual orange juice because you pop it in the tablet into a water and then it just kind of fizzes and bubbles. That's what it looks like. So we just pop it into the water bottle and then we just let it do its thing. And then the other thing I never travel without is my multivitamin pack. And so this is what they look like. It's really convenient for travel because it already is separated. You don't have to count everything. It's already in packs. So depending on how many days you're going to be gone, it's really easy to pop that in your suitcase and not have to carry the whole big box with you if you know you're only going to be gone for a little bit. One more thing about this too, if you're going through the airport, it's really easy to take this whole thing, but oftentimes we'll put the tablet in our water bottle empty to get it through security and then fill it up on the other side. And then by the time we hop on our flight, then it's ready to go. And then the other thing that I often carry with me is our protein. So I don't have the canister of protein with me, but the reason I have showing you this one happens to be our vanilla whey protein. But I'm showing you this one because I can get, if not all, most of my jar that we sell into a quart size bag. Same thing. That way I have it with me if I need it. It's not a big bulky canister. It's not taking up a lot of room in my suitcase in order for me to then also know how to get everything through security. So one thing I do want to mention about that too is that oftentimes I will pull my vitamin travel bag. So I put everything I take on a trip goes in this bad boy right here. And so that way I can make sure that everything's put together. But oftentimes, like if you travel a lot or fly a lot, you would put food to the side, or nowadays you can actually put hand sanitizer to the side, and they'll just test it and swab it and make sure it's safe and good to go. And that way you're all set and you don't have to worry about that. I personally always plan a little bit of extra time when I fly because I carry so much powder with me between my Hydrate, which is another product we have, which is an electrolyte powder, and the protein. Sometimes it gets pulled, sometimes it doesn't, but I always plan a little bit of extra time for that. Going through security.
So when you're saying extra time, like when I always recommend my clients who's going international, always get there 3 hours before your flight, and if it's domestic, at least 2 hours. So that way, even now with COVID, it's still pretty long with the TSA going through and checking everything and make sure everybody's well. And plus now they're also checking temperatures and making sure people are wearing masks. So that's very important as well. And you travel with your daughter as well. So
yes.
You recommend when traveling with a child, especially with the Shaklee products, some things that you would take that you don't recommend for the kids, or all of them, all good for all ages?
There's a few warnings on it, but I usually leave that up to the parent. In our life, she's been a Shaklee baby since she was born. I was taking the prenatal stuff before she, like, I was using the multivitamin that I just showed as my pre and postnatal. And then as soon as she could start swallowing, I had her on our probiotic. It's a really small, it was easy for her to get down. It's actually this guy in here. We have a stronger probiotic now, but when she was a baby, she was already taking this probiotic as soon as she could really swallow. After I was done nursing her, we started her on solids. So, but everything in here, she loves the Hydrate product, which I was talking about. Again, I should have grabbed the canister, but I travel with it in this little bag here. And so between the Hydrate, which is the electrolyte powder, and the vitamin C, we always have that for at least the beginning of our flight, if not to make it through the whole flight. That way it just helps that depending if you're changing altitudes or how long you're going to be on the flight, you're not getting dehydrated. You have all the essential vitamins that you need in order to keep your immune system boosted and ready to go. So she's had the vitamin C and the Hydrate. The Hydrate was originally designed for athletes and it is an electrolyte powder. So it's meant for during workouts specifically, but for anyone who's out there who's flown or done trips, that can be an athletic event all by itself sometimes. So making sure that your immune system is there and that you're hydrated enough to, you know, stay present and stay active with, if there are changes or delays or anything like that. The vitamin C really helps keep your brain sharp, and so does the electrolyte powder. And so we call that, like I said earlier, our orange juice, and we make that. And then in the Nutrifuron too, it has pumpkin seed, safflower, the Asian plantain seed, and then the most important part in that one is the Japanese honeysuckle flower, and that's really what helps keep the immune system at its highest point. So but traveling with all that kind of stuff, yeah, I allow my daughter to have it all. I don't know if that's correct for everybody out there, but that's why I can help do the consultations, and we can talk about if there is a specific goal that we're trying to get to, or is it just simply because you want to travel and how do they stay safe. But to this day, so she's 7, and now she knows how to swallow like what you would consider a pill. So she takes her she doesn't take the kid stuff. She never liked it. So she swallows a multivitamin, omegas, alfalfa, and her Nutrifuron daily. And then we do those other things specifically for travel, or if we know we're having a big day, whether it's outside or something like that.
And AJ brings up a good point, especially with packing. What I'm glad that you didn't have the canisters and you did have the baggies, because sometimes people actually need a description of what you're talking about, because people forget. And please remember, people, to put this in your carry-on and not under the plane, or because if you, even with your regular medication, you want to make sure it's with you as a carry-on. So it's right there when you need it. And as AJ mentioned, you know, take your bottles empty, pour it in, get a bottle of water from one of the stores, or you already, or if you know the water is filtered wherever you're going, so you just add the water to it and you're there. And as well, you know, I'm always saying, get a good night's sleep. I know people are so excited with traveling, but you want to get a good night's sleep. Even though I fall asleep on a nail, I can fall asleep anywhere. So I love traveling. But it definitely, the sleep will also help with your whole body system, because if you're not sleeping, your whole system's off, and then you can catch something as well. So
also, it doesn't give you enough time to reset.
Exactly. So you want to make sure, even before COVID, people want to make sure that if you have a cold, you have anything that, you know, tissues, hand sanitizers, make sure you bring everything you're going to need to keep well, because in closed confinements like an airplane, things can travel. So you want to make sure that you're well protected while you're traveling. And AJ does travel a lot. Her husband, Jim, is a flight attendant with Delta. Is that correct?
Yep.
And so he's flying all the time, and I'm sure that, you know, when people are on the planes, they have to wear the mask due to COVID. Do you recommend or warn people when you're flying? What advice you give them? What to expect when they're on the flight? So it's like, oh my God, they didn't tell me. Besides a mask.
No, I see there's variations of it. Some people choose to wear gloves. The flight attendants at this point on most airlines are required to have a mask and gloves on at all times. And Delta specifically, they also do provide a hand sanitizer. So if you feel like you need to wipe down the seat or wipe down the tray a little bit more and you forget yours, Delta specifically does that. Not every airline does. It really kind of depends. And then another really cool thing about Delta is that they are making sure that the middle seats are still open. So you do have a little bit of social distancing. I've had some other friends travel recently on other airlines, and they're not making that a standard. But if you happen to choose Delta, they really do everything they can to try and keep you healthy and safe. And on that same note, so he doesn't fly he has omegas with him all the time, and he has his nutrifuron with him all the time, and then he takes the multivitamins as well in order to be safe and healthy. He just peeked around the corner. That was kind of funny.
That's all right.
We're talking about you. Yes, we are. And so yes, he always, but same thing, going back to the packing thing, he has his omegas in a small bag like this, and his nutrifuron, they might all be in the same bag, as a matter of fact, just to try and save room, because for them, their bags have to stay on the top with them at all times. So he has to be very careful about how he packs and what the trip is going to look like for him to make sure he has everything. It's always tough in the winter for him because too, if he goes from where we are here in Florida and say he has to fly to Minnesota or Minneapolis or Detroit, the weather difference is there too, and so he has to pack his heavy coat and he has to pack different shoes. And so just because what he's wearing for work is the official uniform, he also has things that he needs to pack and be prepared for the climate changes. And so it's really important to, one, keep yourself healthy, but also really be aware of how you're packing for what your needs for the trip are going to be too. And
Exactly.
I always keep my vitamins up top with me, just because you don't know. I mean, we always go in with a plan, right? But it doesn't mean that that's the plan that's always executed. So being aware of all of that's really important too.
And I'm glad you brought that up, because when you're traveling, you really need to know. I tell my clients, you really need to know where you're going, because you may need to pack in layers. Like we're planning a trip to Alaska, and even though it's in the summertime, there are times where it's going to be very rainy, more chilly. Like you said, we're in Florida, we're like 110 in the shade right now. And
Right.
Alaska right now is pretty warm because we're all having this very bad heat wave. I mean, all 50 states, and some of the glaciers are melting and all that. So it is pretty warm up there. But there are times where you may start with a heavy sweater or jacket and get, I'd rather take things off than put things on. So I'm the type of
Wish
person.
you had something that you left at home.
Exactly. I start with a sweater no matter what, and I can always take it off. You can always put something on. It's very, you need to know where you're going. It's not like you bring a bathing suit and, all of a sudden it gets to be 60 degrees out and you don't have a sweater, you'll be freezing out. So you need to know what to pack when packing.
Right. And I mean, even at that point too, about having a sweater, we always eat. I don't want to say this. The body will stay regulated at the correct temperature, the better your immune system is. However, getting on an airplane, because they aren't passing out as much either food or even blankets or any of those kinds of extras anymore because of the whole pandemic, that we always make sure we also pack a long sleeve for either inside the airport or inside the airplane and that kind of stuff. And if the better your immune system's functioning, the less you have those personal temperature fluctuations,
Mm-hmm.
and then you may not have to adjust quite as much. But if you have, like you said, you didn't get enough sleep or your immune system isn't strong enough, then you can have really big personal temperature changes, not just where you're going.
So let me ask you, since you're a world traveler, where are some of your favorite places that you've been? With The three of you, you and Jim and your daughter, any
So we
particular
haven't
plan?
taken a Adela International yet. However, I'm really looking forward to it. Our goal, assuming everything opens up the way we like it to, is to go to Taiwan for Chinese New Year to visit his family. So that'll be her first big international trip. There's a lot of places on our list that we want to get to. We were held up by a passport. Adela needed a passport, and then this whole thing happened. So it's just a little behind schedule.
Yeah, and for a while the passport offices were closed and they're starting to reopen again. So it is taking a little longer to get your passports back. So if you're out there waiting for a passport, please do it. It is, some offices are still closed depending on if there's a hot spot in that area. I know Miami is still closed. I
Right.
believe Orlando is still closed, but other states do have them open. So it usually takes 6 to 8 weeks to get a brand new one, but it has been taking 3 to 4 months, as well as getting them renewing them. It doesn't take as long, but they are backed up. So if you're planning a trip, make sure you have your passports first or plan out longer. And you have to look at the date on your passport, because if it's 6 months or longer prior to your departure, you're going to need to renew it, because God forbid you're stuck there at a destination. You want to make sure your passport won't expire. So make sure you're looking at the dates of your passports. But well, what about you and Jim? Have you both traveled without your daughter to any particular destination?
We don't do that quite as much because we choose to homeschool. But along that note, what we do have the opportunity and we're blessed to do, even just in the States, because traveling, I mean, international is great, don't get me wrong. But at the same time, there's so much here in the US that people don't know or haven't visited, or, oh, I've always wanted to go here or go there. So Hawaii was beautiful. We did a workshop there. So we flew in for the weekend and we had a great time and did our workshop and explored a little bit. So we are looking forward to taking her, but same thing, because of this whole situation, it's a quarantine on both sides. So we haven't taken her over there yet. But we had fun in San Francisco. She's been to New Orleans with us. She's been to New York. That was fun. New York was funny because as we flew in, she had just recently studied about the Statue of Liberty. And so she's like pointing out the window, Liberty, Liberty. And I think she was probably like 5, like maybe kindergarten at that age. But it was kind of cool that she could learn about something and then also then actually go and explore it and see it. So she's been to probably, well, I would guess at least 25, maybe 20, 25 states already by 7 to visit different things, and not just like stop in over like a quick layover, like actually gone and visited and explored. And so, and that's the other thing too, is like going back to even trying to stay healthy. Like if you're going to go and do excursions or you're going to go out hiking or that kind of stuff, there's a lot of products that Shaklee can help with those adventures too, to make sure that not only is the immunity in your body going to be resistant to whatever you might be exposed to, but then also to make those experiences the best they can be as well, because you're going to need different stuff if you're going to go hiking in Alaska versus if you're going to go hiking in Utah. And so just knowing how your body can work and what vitamins or minerals are needed for different adventures is really important too. So not only just the travel side of it, but Cheryl, like you were saying, depending on what you're doing, you need to be prepared both mentally and physically to make it the best.
Exactly. And I'm so glad you brought up that, yes, we always encourage people to reach out and see our own country, because I think half the time when people are traveling, they're so eager to rush out to go to the Caribbean or go this and that. And I'm like, well, what about going to New York? I mean, or go to Washington, D.C. I know you can't go to Japan right now for the cherry blossoms, but what about going to Washington, D.C.? And while you're up there, you can see the different monuments and all that. So I try to encourage people to see what we have. I mean, Utah's great for skiing. We got the Rocky Mountain. We got so many mountain ranges, from the Rockies to the Shenandoah Valley and all that. I mean, we have a beautiful country here, and I think we all kind of take advantage of it and don't realize what we have and want to go other places. So That's very important that we not only for us but our children, like you said, the Statue of Liberty in Chicago, in New York City. Yeah, people used to go as a kid, and not all schools go anymore. And you see it, oh, it's there, but every time I go by there, I cry because I know my ancestors came through Ellis Island, and I got my
Too.
great grandmother's ticket from the boat that she came over on was donated by my aunt, and it's on
Oh,
display
cool.
there in Ellis Island Museum. And it's just that your heart is in all these places, and it's like you need to see and do and check out where we live before we go out there and go other places. So that's
And they're fun. I mean, it just depends on hobbies. Like one of my hobbies is scuba diving. Jim isn't certified yet, but we'll get him there. And but so eventually, like we'll do Australia and try and do some of that kind of stuff. But being here in Florida, you can go diving off the coast and see just some amazing things too.
and we have one of
Caribbean,
the best coral reefs in the world right down in Key West. It's one
US.
of the I mean, next to the Great Barrier Reef, we have the #1 destination for coral reefs. I mean, you have to go down with people that know what they're doing and touching, so you're not ruining the coral down there. But it's the most beautiful thing. I've always seen it on TV. I'm not a scuba diver. I'm always afraid to get water up my nose. I can swim, but I'm not a scuba diver. But I just love going to the aquariums and seeing things in nature and all that. So I love all that information out there. Um, let's see, what else can we speak about? So, hmm, 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 hmm. So yes,
Okay, we'll
but
talk about that too.
anyway, no, it happens. We're live, so it happens. For people that are listening to me, do you have a region or area you can service anybody that is listening to this show on Shaklee products, or do
Yeah,
they?
we're a global international company. So there are a few products, either a few products are limited is what I'll say, sometimes depending on the company. Like for example, our hydrate powder in the United States, we have two choices. You have a lemon or you have an orange. In other countries, they only have the lemon. So like little things like that are just a little bit different depending on the area. But I have resources and access to be able to make sure that the product that we're looking for can be shipped anywhere. One of my favorite stories actually is when this whole pandemic thing started, one of my longtime clients called and he had two kids. And one was out in Arizona at college and the other one was all the way out in Oregon. And he just said, he just asked what they needed, and they're in two different phases of their life. One was still living on a college campus. The other one is married and has a dog, and they live in like their mobile trailer because they like to travel around the country in their car. So, they have two different lifestyles, but we're able to accommodate them. And he never had to leave his couch in Colorado. We were able to do it all. I was here in Florida. He was in Colorado. The kids were on the other side of the country, and we were still able to get them all the products they needed for their particular situation.
So anybody that is listening, because I know I have clients all over the United States, that AJ can help you. AJ, why don't you put your contact information out there, and also any of my friends and family can contact me, and I can refer AJ because we belong to BNI, which is Business Network International. And we see each other every Wednesday morning and during the week. So I know where she is. I know how to get a hold of her. So and I highly recommend her because I have some of her products. So she's really as nice as she is talking to us. She's just as nice in person.
Oh, thank you. I have one last thing actually that came up to mind too, that so we have a few other products about the sleep beforehand. So if you do know that you tend to be a little more high anxiety, either because you aren't used to flying or just the excitement of the trip or anything like that, as we talked about, to keep the immune system healthy, it's great that you get those good night sleeps. But if you aren't, even on a regular basis, we have a few products that are available to help with that. And I noticed there's a few products that help me more than others. So it's fun to walk through those conversations. So my name is AJ Gantt, and I represent Shaklee. And yeah, You can get a hold of me through Facebook, text message, email. I'm pretty accessible, and I love just having these conversations with people and trying to keep you healthy.
Even if it's just a consultation, she's not,
Even if it's just a consultation. Yep.
That's really great. I appreciate you coming on today, AJ. I will see you tomorrow morning at BNI. And we appreciate you giving us all the time you gave us today, and wish your family a good day and God bless.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.